Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of A Fresh Perspective with Jeff Charles, where we prefer truth over narrative and principles over politics. And I've got another great fire guest for you today, and we're going to be, it's been kind of a slow news cycle. There hasn't been much going on, but there was a little incident that happened on July 13th where somebody shot the former president of the United States, and that sent everything into disarray. And that's what my guest and I are going to talk about today. But before I get into everything, I just want to remind you to like this, share this, and also subscribe if you haven't already. That way you'll be updated whenever I upload a new video or a new episode or a new interview. Also, be sure to check out my Substack. It's called Chasing Liberty. You can access that at libertychasers.com. Become a subscriber, become a paid subscriber, and support my work. I appreciate it immensely. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and bring on my guest, Mr. Anthony Constantino, who is the co-founder and CEO of Sticker Mule. Welcome to the program, brother.
Happy to be here.
Glad to have you. Glad to have you. I'm the political scene is kind of in disarray right now. Well, I wouldn't say disarray, but there's a lot going on with the assassination attempt, Biden dropping out, Kamala Harris possibly becoming the nominee. But this assassination attempt on Trump's life brought up a lot of issues that have been coming to the forefront I'd say over the past decade, really. And you got into a little bit of trouble for something that you posted on your company's account. I want to talk mainly about that, but first, before we get into all that, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, about Sticker Mule? What are you all about? Tell us your story.
Sticker Mule started on a whim in 2010. Me and my co-founder, believe it or not, we started a company. My co-founder had never used a computer before, even saw the internet, and I just started BSing about starting an internet company. And he asked me, "What the heck do you even do on the internet?" I showed him a few options, and this is a true story. He went home and came and saw me. I didn't think anything was going to come of it. When you're young, I was in my 20s, and you'd BS about starting companies and whatnot, so he goes home and almost word for word comes and sees me bright and early the next day and with a notepad. And he says, "Anthony, I spent all night with a bottle of vodka and thought about what you said. And we got to start an internet company together." I wrote the game plan down. And so this is going to feed into some other stuff. But, so anyways, I said to him, maybe down the road. And he said, "No, Anthony, you showed me the internet last night. This is word for word. You showed me the internet last night. You're 5 years too late. We got to start now or never. I'll cut you a check, but you got to put some money in too. And you got to decide you got to do what you want to do it, but you got to decide right now." So I said, okay. We called my brother. He said he was interested too. So he cut an additional check and we got started. We launched the company 3 months later. And today we're 1,200 people in 30 plus countries.
Wow. Wow, that's quite a bit of growth. So what is Sticker Mule? I mean, I know it's in the name, stickers, but tell me.
So, the name, right? I like to be funny. I don't know if it's particularly funny, but at the time, it's still hard to get domain names. So we were like, we didn't even, we moved so quickly, and this gets to like the letter I sent and whatnot. But first, the decision to start the company was really quick. I just said internet company. We didn't even know what we were going to do. And so we didn't know how to get started. We didn't know anything. And so I went and said, well, we got to get people. I wasn't a programmer. I said, well, we got to get people to build a website. So we went and hired a firm to build an e-commerce website. We called the guy. He took the call and he said to me, "What are you guys looking to sell?" You could tell my co-founder was older by the way he spoke on the call. And and I said, well, he said, "We're not ready. We haven't decided that yet." And he said, "Well, what's your budget?" And my co-founder said, "We've never done anything on the internet before. We were hoping you could advise us what would be a sensible budget." And the guy goes, "Listen, I'm getting a lot of crazies calling me, and you guys sound like, some of the crazies. I don't think I want to work with you." And so, the guy, I looked at my co-founder, and he said, "Go ahead and tell him a budget." And I said, "Well, we could spend $100,000 to build the website." And the owner of the agency said, "I can meet you next week. Why don't you come down to DC?" So I went down to Washington, DC. Right. And I give the guy a lot of credit. I went down to Washington, D.C. He said, "I got to be honest. I thought you guys were nuts, but I really like you. I can get started on this right away. Can you decide what the heck you want to sell?" So we decided, we just wanted to do a general printing company. We didn't know what. And then we started, we actually originally called the name Print Bear. We were like, word plus animal is sort of humorous. We had this clever logo we designed with a bear. It was cute. And then, I don't know, we decided to narrow the scope and we said sticker. We started throwing out products plus animals. And so and ended up being Sticker Mule. I called a kid about a little bit younger than me, and I said, "Hey, me and my friend Tom, we're starting a internet company," and he was a designer, and I said, we want your help to design the website. I had designed the framework in black and white with on a notepad, like, or whatnot, and I said, but we want your help to design it, make it look beautiful and whatnot. And he said, again, almost word for word, he said, I never designed a website before, but I always wanted to. And I said, well, we can't pay you, but if things go well, we'll pay you down the road. And so he designed a website in about a week, and ends up, it looks almost like exactly like what it looks like today. Then it hasn't really changed much. And so handed it off to the designers, the development company. And like I said, we launched 3 months later. The kid is now our chief marketing officer. So,
Okay.
he had a fun ride, and we launched the site. And I think because of the beauty of the design, and it was, at the time, you're talking 2010, it was like one of the prettier websites on the internet. All of a sudden the design community started talking about it. And so we got 10 or 20 orders our first day, which was pretty cool. And yeah, it just took off from there. And it's funny, you get into these, it's funny with some of the slurs that are thrown at people that like Trump. I didn't even know I was gonna end up being a Trump supporter at the time I started the company. But I'm from a small town. So, the amount of talent in my town, there's 15,000 people here. There's not a lot of technical talent in my town. And so just right off the bat, there was this thing about remote work, right? It wasn't really a thing yet. And we decided to build a remote company from day one out of necessity. And I liked, I always had friends from different, backgrounds. And so I just started hiring people all over the world. Our first employee lived in England, and then we just started getting people in just all different parts of the world. Brazil, we got all sorts of people in South America, Western Europe, Eastern Europe, Asia, wherever the case may be. Um, and so yeah, it's been a fun ride.
Nice, nice. Now, were you always political for a long time, or did this kind of evolve over time, or what got you interested in politics?
I wouldn't like name myself a particularly political person.
Mhm.
No, I would, I mean, when I was younger, I think like what got me into the world I'm in today is, I had friends from all different perspectives. When I was younger, it was, we would go out and go out and go to diners and stuff like that, and just shoot. It was just sort of fun to shoot the shit about different political ideas. But I had friends a lot of friends were Democrats. In fact, I don't know if I should even say this. I worked on 2 Democrat political campaigns. My friend ran for assembly, and another friend, ran for mayor of Albany. I worked on both of those campaigns. He was a Democrat, but he was a good friend of mine. And I had friends from, we would just BS about stuff, and it was always fun to talk about politics. There wasn't the animosity that there is today. I would say once I got into running the company, I didn't have a strong interest in politics. I didn't even really have a strong interest in President Trump until I don't know. It's not until, well, later on in the story, until a friend of mine had mentioned to me that he found candidate Trump then interesting. And I had only heard stuff in the media. I didn't really follow him as a figure because I had my own things going on in life. But my friend said Trump's interesting. I had heard all these, like, the media portrayals of him at the time. This was 2015 or 2016. And he said, well, you should really watch a speech. And he was a guy that I thought was left leaning and would never like a guy like Trump. And I said, well, I can't believe this guy would say he likes Trump. I gotta hear him out. And so I listened to a speech that Trump made. And the first thing I heard him say was, he was at the time was getting destroyed for the wall, right? We're gonna and all this stuff about that. But no one brought up the point about him saying there's going to be a big, beautiful door because we want people coming into this country. So I heard stuff like that, and I said right away, I said, this friend of mine who I thought was a left leaning guy is right. The media is misrepresenting this guy completely, and so I think that probably sparked my interest in then candidate Trump.
I've heard similar stories. I mean, because back then when he was first running, I wasn't a fan of his. I really wasn't. Um, but I was already kind of in the media, so I already kind of knew where he stood, even with all what the media was saying. But I've heard this story a lot where people say, I hated Trump, but then I realized how much the other side was lying about him. I've heard that story many
Yeah.
times. And even me, because I did not like him at all. And then, he took office, and I'm watching what's going on. I'm starting, my career in what I do now. And I'm like, okay, like he would say something that I didn't like. I'd be like, okay, he probably shouldn't have said that. That wasn't good. But then the other side, the media would just go nuts and blatantly lie about it. And I'm like, okay, now you're gonna make me defend this guy because you guys are being worse than
Yeah.
he is with what you're doing. Is that kind of what you also noticed around that time too?
Yeah, I mean, I saw this in 2015, 2016. A lot of people that have the biggest issue, they haven't heard, the whole speech. Like very few people heard him say, we're going to have a wall and it's going to have a big, beautiful door. I bet you 98% of so-called Trump haters don't know he ever said that. So yeah, a friend of mine, I wouldn't say I was for or against or anything. I would just not, I was in my own world. I was building my company and whatnot. And I was loosely aware of what was going on. And a friend of mine said, hey, I like Trump. And he said, I just couldn't believe it because like I said, I thought he was a left-leaning guy. And I checked it out, listened, he said listen to a speech and then beyond that, I like comedy. I like watching stand up. I've done a little bit of stand up myself, and you got to give the guy credit for his comedic talents.
Yeah, you really do. I mean, when he does those rallies, he's basically doing a stand-up routine. And even for me, because I'm not really a fan of his. I mean, I voted for him in the past, but to me, neither party really represents what I want. I'm a libertarian, so I don't really have a
Okay.
dog in the whole Donald Trump versus Kamala Harris thing because I'm not voting for either of them. But when I see him up on that stage sometimes and he's cracking jokes, I'm like, man, this is crazy. We've never really seen a presidential candidate like that, at least not in any recent memory. He
It's
does
not,
have. Go ahead.
yeah, no, I was just gonna say, and like when I'm looking at anyone, like in terms of talent, people that are gonna join Sticker Mule or political candidates, I look for people that got skill sets that I don't have or can do things that I can't do. Like, why would I want to bring somebody into my company that I can do everything they can do, right? So I'm always looking for people that are better than me in different ways. And, you know, maybe it sounds inappropriate to say, but you look at a lot of politicians and I don't know, maybe it's inappropriate to say, but a lot of times I see people and I go, that person doesn't seem particularly more intelligent than me. And there's been a lot of name calling and, jokes about, Trump's intelligence or maybe lack thereof or whatever people think is but the reality is I look at a guy and I say, I could never tell jokes like that. I've done some comedy and I could never give performance, that takes a high IQ to get up there on stage and tell jokes like that. Joke writing is not easy. Like most professional comedians got teams of writers behind them. I don't think he's got that. I think he's doing this all. He's writing these jokes himself. And what do you like? This is another thing with comedy. People don't understand. They get mad at certain jokes. This joke's not good. That joke's good. But it's not easy to write 100% jokes that land. If you're a comedian, you're going to tell jokes that offend people. Sometimes you want to be funny. You want to entertain people. I mean, I've told jokes that people don't like at times too. Does it make me a bad person? I don't know. I'm making an attempt to be funny and humorous and entertaining. And sometimes you say things. I wrote a joke the other, we do, people don't know this. So like, if you follow us, like, we have very humorous emails at times. We do a lot of humorous videos at times. I write a lot of that stuff. I write a lot of our commercials and, I'm sure in drafting, sometimes I write things that the teams, don't put that out there. But, that's like the comedic process. I think anyone you look at that's funny and entertaining, it's particularly funny is going to tell jokes that offend at times because you can't tell 100% non-offensive jokes. So I give him a lot of credit. I think people don't talk this aspect of him up, but his comedic skill is high level as IQ. In fact, I worked with a guy on comedy that was one of the top copywriters for comedic writers for Jay Leno.
Oh, okay.
And he was a lifelong Democrat, probably the funniest comedian I've ever, worked with. And he said, nobody wants to give the guy credit, but Donald Trump's probably the funniest comedian, the best stand-up in the world today.
Yeah, he's really good at it. And I think it's just more of like a natural thing for him. I mean, and you're right. I mean, comedy is not easy. I mean, I do a lot of satire. I write satirical stuff. I post on Twitter. And you're right. It does offend. There is no way to tell jokes that please everybody. Somebody's going to get offended. And usually 9 times out of 10, it's them just being butthurt in their own feelings. But it's difficult to really engage people and make them laugh, whether it's in print or on video or standing up on a stage. So, I mean, to me, like when people are saying, oh, he's dumb, and I'm like, well, wait a minute. If he built this business that he has and he's in the position that he's in, he's not stupid. You may disagree with what he says. You may think he may not have enough knowledge in certain areas, which I've seen before. Take the guns first, due process later. You're not supposed to do that. But I don't think he's a stupid person. So I think a lot of that stuff was just part of the vitriol that has become part of American politics that people blame on Trump. And I do want to talk about that a little more later in the conversation, but I want to pivot to what happened on July 13th. Uh, what were your
Sure.
immediate thoughts and feelings? I mean, this is going to be one of those questions that people ask 10 years from now. Where were you when this guy shot the former president? What was your initial reaction, just emotionally, mentally? Describe kind of your thoughts and feelings when you first heard about this.
Sure. It's like a 9/11 moment. I remember I walked into my college accounting class when 9/11 had. I didn't know what was going on. I walked in and the room was silent and the buildings were going down, right? And you don't forget about that. The Trump assassination. I was in a mall in Mexico City, and my friend called me, and I was about to get a haircut. So, I still went forward with the haircut, but I wrote the email that and the message that we sent out. We posted on X and other social platforms. We posted it on we sent an email, and I wrote it within 5 minutes of finding out he was shot. While I was getting a haircut, and the genesis of it is I like solving. First of all, I tried to tell in the beginning story about, Sticker Mule was created very quickly. We moved very quickly. Our lead designers, everything was done quickly. And as a general principle, you said this show's about principles over politics. I think, that's the way I view life. I don't think I'm a particularly political, person. I think a lot of the problem in politics is too many people that are vocally defending Trump. They are partisans, because the people like me that are more uh, you know, people like me in general stay quiet. So I like solving big problems. I like to move quickly. And I think like one of the biggest problems in the world today is that millions of people have been programmed to hate, really hundreds of millions of people, because just in the United States alone, you're talking 70 or 80 million Trump supporters. But I mentioned I was in Mexico City. I happen to spend a lot of my time in Mexico. We have our companies also in Europe. I spend a lot of time in Europe. There's Trump supporters all over the world. So easily, you're talking hundreds of millions of people like or love President Trump. And yet, millions of people have been um, programmed to not only despise him, but his supporters, which is really, really crazy. So I made the statement that a lot of Trump supporters have big hearts, and, people are still trying to tear me up for it, but it's a statistical fact. If you're arguing against me, it doesn't take a high IQ to realize you're wrong. I mean, you need maybe an IQ of 80 to realize you're wrong, because you can't have a group of 100 million people and say nobody's got a big heart in that group or nobody's a good person. Once you get upwards of 100 million supporters, people on the other side that are saying they're throwing all these slurs at the supporters, saying whatever they say, and I don't even like repeating it because it's so disgusting a lot of the times. But everyone knows what they say. If you're saying that stuff, it doesn't take a high IQ to realize you're dead wrong, because how do you explain to hundreds of millions of people that like him, not only in the United States, but in countries like Mexico and South America and, Western Europe and Eastern Europe? How do you explain that? It doesn't, obviously there are a lot of great people with big hearts that love Trump. I'd like to, I think I'm one of them. I think my reputation speaks for itself. The reputation of my company is a very strong reputation. And so I just decided, one of the reasons why, unfortunately, a lot of people think these terrible things is the media or whoever's responsible has created such a dangerous environment for Trump supporters that many of the higher IQ Trump supporters, more successful Trump supporters that have strong persuasion abilities and are, good speakers, maybe like myself, maybe not, I don't know, but I think I'm a decent, fairly intelligent person. But people like myself have been bullied into silence, because smart people can do a risk reward analysis, and they say, geez, it's not worth it to me, because I'm going to lose I'm going to lose my friends, my business is going to get destroyed, my wife's not going to, go in bed with me for the next month or so because she's going to be mad at me, or whatever the case may be. I'm getting threatened by my girlfriend, or whatever the case may be, or boyfriend, or whatever it is, Um, so yeah, Trump supporters in general, with higher IQs and tend to stay quiet, and it makes it very easy to paint the masses with all these nasty slurs. And it's a big problem that needs to come to an end. And I think somebody with a company like mine speaking up is helping. And I'd like to take credit for, moving the needle, but I'm really not the first to do it, and I don't think I'll be the last either. Elon Musk kind of took lead. I mean, even before Elon Musk really took the lead, you really had Kanye West took lead, right? And speaking up and saying he liked Trump. And then now you got Elon Musk doing it. And now, the biggest one is Mark Zuckerberg, who was maybe one of the biggest Trump haters in the country and spent 300 or 400 million to hurt Trump. All of a sudden, is in doing interviews with smiles on his face, is saying how inspired he was by Trump's reaction to the assassination attempt and his courage in that moment. And he said, it was an inspirational moment for him. So, um, I don't think what I said, I'm not alone in what I'm saying. More and more people are speaking out, especially more successful people are getting more comfortable speaking out. I think Kanye West deserves a lot of credit. Lil Wayne come out, right, and did it and spoke in favor of Trump. So I'm not the first, but it's still a climate where, unfortunately, tens of millions of people, for some reason, have been programmed to completely hate hundreds of millions of other people and talk about them in dehumanizing language, and that needs to come to an end.
Yeah, yeah, it does. And now, was that when you sent that email out, and then when you posted that post on X, was that your first time really coming out like, "Hey, I like Trump," or had you already kind of done that before? Or
No, that was the first. No, so this is interesting too. I got a front row seat to what it's like to be exposed to anti-Trump hate, because in 2016 I made the mistake. Actually, it was I bought all these Trump hat ornaments, right? And he had them in his store, and I guess it counted as a donation, right? So, like, if you look me up, Anthony Constantino donated to Trump in 2016 because I bought these ornaments. And maybe I made a donation too. I don't even remember, but I remember they were very funny, right? People I was handing them out to all sorts of people. It was funny, and so somebody found that out about the donation, and some influencer put it on the internet. And this was before, I think, even I don't know. This was whenever, and around 2016, and it went viral, and people went nuts. We were a much smaller company at the time, had no experience. I think I was one of the first people to get canceled, actually, because I got attacked before the word cancel culture came into existence. And there was about a week where our company inbox just got slammed with hate. Social media went nuts. And we were smaller at the time, not as financially, rock solid as we are today. We were always good, but it was a new growing business, and it was traumatic. People thought the business was going to be destroyed. I thought I made this innocent donation or bought these goofy hats, and next thing I know, I ruined my own company.
whoops.
And so, that was traumatic. And so, we thought the business was destroyed. Of course, nothing happened. Um, but but ever since then, I've been stalked by internet haters, and not just me, but our brand. And there's these, people at the peripheries that go viral every month or so within their communities, and they got to tell the whole world, right? They have to let the whole world know, don't buy from Sticker Mule because the owner supports Trump. And so I've just been we've been nonstop harassed by these people. And so we got a front row seat to the hate and decided, similar to Trump, right? He called, people say he's this bad guy that's mean to people, but he refers to himself as a counterpuncher. I like to be the same way. In fact, people don't know this. I box professionally, and I actually am a counterpuncher. I don't like to punch first. I like to punch second, even in boxing. I got 4 KOs, but I like to punch second. I don't like to go first because you expose yourself when you go first. So, people have been trying to beat us up for the last X number of years over my Trump support. And so I just said, listen, we're gonna, I'm gonna use my skills as a highly, fairly intelligent person to try to address this problem and try to fix this problem. And now all these like internet haters that were desperately trying to educate the world that I support Trump because they thought it was hurting me. Now they want no one to know Sticker Mule supports Trump, because you should keep quiet. You shouldn't let anyone know this, because I think they know that, like, when people like me speak up, it's having a positive influence on the world. And it's letting people know that, like, Anthony Constantino and Sticker Mule are representative of the type of people that support Trump. And if you listen to me or you meet me, it's hard to brand me as the types of things that Trump supporters get branded with.
Yeah, like a hateful
So
person,
yeah.
bigot, Nazi, racist, so all that other stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. If you walk, I know, yeah, if you walk into the company, it's very hard to brand me with that. I think it's inappropriate to say what types of people work for you, what type of people don't work for you, but people be shocked if they saw, my management team and in the group, the types of people running the company. Like I said, I've always been with a multicultural social circle almost since really since childhood, and it wasn't in a community I was born within. I just, for whatever reason, I sought that out. I like hanging out with different people from different backgrounds. I just think it's fun and interesting. So I've always been that way. I built the company to be that way before this whole Trump thing became a thing, before, all of a sudden, like, people are DEI or whatever you call it. But before that word was even came into existence, I was building the company in that way just because I think it's fun. I think diversity and I think multicultural environments are fun. And so, yeah, if you walk in a sticker mill, you would have a very, like I said, your IQ would have to be below 80 to throw the slurs at me that are usually thrown at Trump's people. So, maybe a lot of these people have, IQs below 80. I don't know. I don't think so. I think actually a lot of people, um, on the other, a lot of the people that think this way, I think they are similarly kind-hearted people too. I think they just haven't had the experience talking to people like me or meeting people like me or some of my friends because unfortunately, even though they may know Trump supporters, the Trump supporters in their social circles stay quiet.
Mhm.
They don't. So they secretly know, and a lot of these people that completely despise people like me, right, out of pocket, in reality, they love people like me. They just don't know that we exist because they hang out with us and they get dinner with us, and the Trump supporters in the world that are in these social circles with Trump haters, by and large, they just keep their mouths shut because they don't want to upset their friends or disrupt their social circle. So I think, what we're doing, we're benefiting the world by like educating people that, people like me and not just me, like I said, Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg's of the world and whether he wants to admit it or not, you can see his reaction to the assassination. He had a huge smile on his face and he seemed to be, deeply inspired by what happened and the Kanye West of the world and so on and so forth.
And I think what a lot of what you're describing. I mean, because most people's IQ are above 80, but I think there's something about hyperpartisanship. I think there's something about social media.
Yeah,
I think there's something about how terrestrial media kind of temporarily lowers our IQ sometimes, if that makes sense. I
could
think,
be.
yeah, people don't think.
Actually, I think,
I think it because the thing is, all
yeah.
those people who do all that vitriol online, when they have these conversations in person, I don't see a lot of it. A lot of this stuff is, I'm not saying it doesn't exist, it does, but a lot of this is in the digital world. Like, when I was in the corporate world before I started doing this full time, I had two workers. One was a black guy who hated Trump. The other was
Mm,
like this big burly biker dude with a beard who liked Trump. They were friends and they would actually talk about Trump at work. And and and,
mhm.
and the Trump supporter would say things, like, there's some things I don't like about Trump. I don't like his manner. I don't like the way he says these things, but this is why I like him. And the black guy would be like, yeah, I don't really like Trump, but I'm glad that he at least brought up the issue of immigration so that we can talk about it. There were reasonable people who disagreed on this one figure, but there wasn't any of that vitriol. It was always very calm. It was always very cordial. And I would imagine, because I think in your post you said you've got Trump supporters who work for you, you've got Biden supporters who, well, probably Kamala Harris supporters now, but I would imagine that a lot of those conversations are able to take place among their colleagues without it devolving into what we see on television or on social
Yeah.
media.
Yeah, two things about that. Like, first of all, unless you got six people in your company, more than likely you got a mixture of both. I mean, it'd
Yes.
be just like it's statistically impossible for 100 people, 100 million people to all be these nasty slurs that are thrown at Trump supporters. If you got a company with more than 4 or 6 people, you got a mixture of both. So we got 1,200 people. Obviously, we have a mixture of both. And, when I wrote the post that I wrote, the message I wrote, I quickly surveyed people on both sides. People don't come out to me and say one thing or another, except the Trump people admit it to me. But people don't come out to me and say, people really don't, but I talk to people on both sides, and the people that were more left leaning were actually more enthusiastic about the message than the right leaning people. And like particularly they said they thought the message was great because they know within Sticker Mule we all get along. There's nobody within Sticker Mule. We throw parties with 30, 40 people. We had a company event last week with 40 people. went to Saratoga Racetrack. And first of all, we invite everybody to our company event from, upper management to, factory people in the factory. We all get along.
Mhm.
And, I'm sure we all come from different sides of the political spectrum, but we all have a great time together. And so the people, that were more so on the anti-Trump side, whatever, more left-leaning people, they were very much in favor of the message, more so than the Trump people. The Trump people were terrified that we were going to just get burned at the stake for me posting what was a rather, I thought, like I said, at the time, Biden people thought was a more calm message, but they said to me, we all get along here and it should be that way in the world. Why can't it be? Like, we all get along great at Sticker Mule. And then secondly, let's talk about like politics at work. I'll be honest with you, we don't really talk politics at work.
Sure.
In fact, after this whole thing, and people say that good or bad, I think it's good. You come to work and have fun. Who the heck wants to talk about politics at work? If you don't, it's like we don't do that. And even throughout this whole backlash, we were getting hit pretty hard. I had conversations with people that I'm sure came from a variety of spectrums, but it wasn't, are you mad at me for writing this? Or are you happy I wrote it? It was, how's your department doing? Is everyone okay? Do we need to hire additional staff? Like, we just talked about work. In fact, within minutes of the backlash hitting, I got a phone call from somebody that said, customer service is getting beat up. Like the email volume went through the roof, first of all. Lots of hate, lots of calls, death threats, calls to commit suicide, all sorts of disgusting things. And so I got notified of that within an hour. And, somebody suggested a bonus. We had done $1,000 bonuses for the whole company during the Trump era when the economy was booming. And, the economy is a little different now, but I said, based on, this was no fault of their own that this happened. Obviously I sent the message. We issued $2,500 bonuses almost immediately within an hour of the backlash hitting. We issued $2,500 bonuses to all 79 people in customer support who were taking the hardest hit of the whole thing. And,
I
I
can
called
imagine.
200 grand just to send an email, $200,000 expense to send an email because we had to do the right thing. But the response was amazingly positive, and not just within the support team who got the bonuses, but, even people outside the support team, they just know that that's the way we run the business. And it wasn't just me, somebody came to me with the idea. So, people in Sticker Mule know it's a happy company. We got, not only are we from diverse cultural backgrounds at Sticker Mule, but obviously diverse political backgrounds. There's no political litmus test. Nobody knows what anyone's politics are at the company, but obviously we come from different backgrounds, but everyone gets along. And I just had, we have our team in Italy. I just had 8 Italians. When people come and visit, a lot of them stay with me at my house, and I own a neighboring house too because we always have people visiting. So I just had 8 Italians living with me for the last 2 weeks. My girlfriend's Mexican, so it was a house we're speaking. Half the house is speaking Italian, the other house, me and my girlfriend speaking Spanish, and we're cooking.
Well, there's some similarities in the languages.
Yeah. Oh yeah, exactly. It works actually. That works, but we got people from all different backgrounds at some Italians, and yeah, we all have a lot of fun. And like I said, I don't know, except for the Trump supporters that do come to me and talk to me because they know where the way I think. For the most part, I don't know people's political backgrounds.
Good. So when it comes to this atmosphere, after the assassination attempt, I did my own video, and I said I'm actually surprised this didn't happen sooner. I'm surprised it took it this long for it to happen, just because I saw the way things were going over the past decade, even before Trump. What do you think? What are the main factors that are contributing to this type of atmosphere to where we're starting to see more political violence? I mean, Trump isn't the first. There was that Bernie Sanders supporter who tried to assassinate Republican lawmakers at that baseball game in, I believe, in 2017. We've seen other forms of political violence. What are the main factors that you think are really contributing to this?
I don't think I'm an expert on this enough to say, other than say, it needs to stop. People blame Trump for all this, but I felt the tension rise with the deplorable comment, that was said in, was it 2016, right? When a major political candidate called 80 million plus people deplorable, and then a bunch of other slurs followed because it wasn't just deplorable. It was, they're deplorable and this, that, and 16 other horrible things. And, that person ran on that as their platform, and people look to, the presidential candidate for leadership, right? So here you have, a political candidate from a well-known family with a well-known husband coming out and saying like, hey, green flag, I think these people are deplorable. I think these people are all these other things. That was the green flag, I think, for supporters to start thinking that way for the media, and then, the media ran with it. And then, then you get another political candidate, right? And who basically runs on the same thing, right? And if I could say, who basically runs on the same thing, right? I had to run this candidacy because Donald Trump said there were fine people on both sides, right? Well, that didn't happen because he totally condemned the neo-Nazis. It was the following sentence: I'm not speaking about the neo-Nazis and the white supremacists because they should be condemned totally. I mean, am I going to get in trouble for like a sentence I said in this interview? Because you can cut it, right? And then I'm fucked. Sorry, I shouldn't say that, but
That's fine. You can,
again,
that's my show.
like, unless your IQ is 80, you hear a guy say there's fine people on both sides of a statue debate, and I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and fine people, all right? And neo-Nazis and white supremacists, they should be condemned totally. I mean, first of all, do you want a president that doesn't defend both sides, right? There was a debate over statues, and the president of the United States came out and defended both sides of the argument, and then perfectly said, and I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and white supremacists, they should be condemned totally, right? I mean, how much better can you say it, right? And then you get another presidential candidate that runs his entire campaign on this lie. And you got the media who's now like reporting the truth, right? Once they decided they want the guy to not exist anymore, right? And he's gone now. Now all of a sudden we can report on this and educate the population that, oh, by the way, that whole fine people thing, that was a hoax. So anyways, we got political leaders that are out there green lighting the villainization and dehumanization, really, the villainization of hundreds of millions of other people. As a Trump supporter and somebody that listens to Trump, I have not, I can tell you this, I have not been personally influenced by Trump to be more hateful towards other people. I've never heard him speak in a way that persuaded me to want to dislike people. I have heard the others, I have heard other people do it, but I have not heard him do it. People think he does it. But if anything, like, unfortunately, there are people in this world that think inappropriate things that are on the right. There's people that think inappropriate things that are on the left, right? But if anything, I think Donald Trump has been educating the less educated people on the right and telling them that, I'll say it now, racism is not okay. I think Donald Trump's played a major role in telling people not to think that way, right? Again, you said this whole thing's about principles over politics, right?
Yep.
I think I see in issues where, a lot of times it's about politics. I think he's done a great job of telling people not to be racist, that they should like each other based on shared principles, right? But, I hear other people, if you ask where does this come from, I mean, you have political leaders green lighting outward hatred towards hundreds of millions of people and trying to dehumanize and villainize hundreds of millions of people.
Yeah, and I think
then the media follows that.
they do. And, and I have to say this too. I mean, I think a lot of people on the right exacerbate that problem. I mean, there's a reason why the left has been able to paint the right a certain way. I think that it's always that loud minority, and I don't care if it's on the left or the right. I mean, not everybody on the left is a purple-haired feminist who wants to send you to the gulag. Yes, those people do exist, and they're very loud. But in general, people on the left aren't like that. On the right, not everybody's like a neo-Nazi, whatever, who hates black people or whatever. Those people do exist, and a lot of them are loud on social media. And I think what happens is that the regular folks on the Democrat and Republican side, they get caught up in that. And especially as a journalist, I know how the media can actually, there's tricks that they use to make it appear that one side is actually represented by that minority. It's called nut picking. Like you pick the nuts on both sides, and then you make it sound like you represent the whole when they only represent a small minority. And then you blame Trump or you blame Biden or you blame whomever. And it's just, I think that really has exacerbated a lot of the stuff. I think Trump's style, because I'm not going to pretend like Trump's an angel. He's not. Like, there's a lot of things that he says that he shouldn't say. Same thing with Biden, same thing with Obama, same thing with George W. Bush, same with all of them. But I think Trump was a response to what had been going on before, because when Obama was elected, and I actually don't blame Obama for this personally. I think when they saw a black president, the media said, now we can really paint other people as racist for disagreeing with them, and they did. If you disagree with Obamacare, they would call you racist, and they've even admitted to this. They know you're not a racist, but they're going to call you that anyway. Then finally, people on the right got sick of it. Let's get this guy in here who's going to give it back to them. And now it's just like it's like we're getting closer and closer to being at each other's throats, which is why I actually appreciated the tweet that you posted, because it was more of a mea culpa, like an olive branch. Hey, we are not who you're being told that we are. I wish there were more people on the left who kind of did that too, to say, hey, we don't all want to, I don't know, cancel you because you disagree with illegal
Yeah.
immigration or whatever.
Just because you got a Trump supporting CEO, we don't want your business to burn to the ground.
Exactly.
People ask me if I want other CEOs to speak out. I think that'd be great. Like, why don't more people on the left speak up and say, hey, we shouldn't be burning American businesses to the ground just because, they like Trump. We shouldn't do that. Believe it or not, there's a guy, I shouldn't, a guy that runs Dustin Moskowitz, right? He's co-founder of Facebook. We're a customer of his new company, and he's about as far as you can get on one side of the aisle. He donates massive amounts of money to support anti-Trump causes. Look, Mark Zuckerberg does too. I don't got an issue with these people. I use their tools, I use their companies, and I wish them the best in life. But yeah, there's not enough of that. And at the same time, like, the media does a good job of finding six guys in the woods somewhere and saying these guys are representative of all Trump supporters. When in reality, those six guys in the woods, they only know each other, and maybe they're three or four other friends in the woods, like, and they're not really representative of people like me, or the hundreds of millions of Trump supporters all over the world. They come from all cultural backgrounds. I mean, people like to throw really crazy slurs, but why does he have so much support in South America and Mexico, even in Mexico?
Yeah. I mean, there's a reason why Javier Milei got elected in Argentina. I'm not saying Javier Milei is Trump, because policy wise, I'm more in line with Javier Milei. I love his policies, but his mannerisms were very Trump-like. His manner is very Trump-like. So you see this, you're right. You see this happening in other countries with Trumpian type leaders popping up.
Yeah, I can tell you, I've lived in Mexico, for a good portion of my year for the last 6 years. And, people don't realize, like, Mexico is a great country. And one thing, I was actually talking about, my girlfriend's Mexican. She's been Mexican, she's lived in Mexico her whole life. And, and then I've talked to other people that live in Mexico that have had the opportunity to come to America. And America does a great job of marketing itself, right? As this, and people that live in particularly in countries like Mexico, and Americans themselves, Americans have no idea how nice Mexico is. I wouldn't live there 6 months out of the year if it wasn't a great place to live, right? And I'm not even talking about I live in this, rich expat neighborhood. I've lived in pretty interesting parts of Mexico, and it's nice all over Mexico. There are some security issues, but the culture's wonderful. The food's unbelievable. You can eat $3 tacos on the street, or you can go to $100 a person sushi restaurant. Whatever you want to do, it's all there. It's all there. So America does a great job of marketing itself. People in the United States think it's wonderful here, and there's no sense in traveling to other countries like Mexico, or Argentina is another beautiful country I've been to. People think there's no sense in going to these places, but realistically, some of these other countries are great. At the same time, like, people that live in Mexico that have never been to America, especially people in the middle class, they think that they're going to come to America and life's going to be great. And like, what's really happening to them is they're coming to America and life's not better. And then I know I've seen this happen to people. I know people this has happened to. They come here, whatever you want to call it, illegally, and then they get asylum, whatever the case may be, and then they're stuck here for 10 years separated from their family, because you get one sister decides, I want to go to America, and the other one stays. Well, now you got family separation for 10 years until they hopefully get citizenship. And so we're ripping families apart on false pretenses, telling them you should leave your home country and come to America because life is going to be better here. In many cases, it's not better here. They don't realize, people in America do not realize life is good in some of these countries. People in these countries don't realize they have a good situation. It's not necessarily the grass is greener here. I love America, but life's good there too. And then you got a massive family separation problem. Luckily, there's FaceTime now, right? And all these tools that families can stay connected when they get separated, but they don't get to hug each other anymore. They don't get to celebrate birthdays together anymore. And I've seen this happen to people, and I've seen people that stress out over the decision and they don't know they're here, should they go back or not. And sadly, I don't even want, I mean, things I've seen that are sad beyond things I even want to, I even want to talk about. But you know, um, yeah,
Well, I mean,
I'll
well,
leave it
think,
there.
yeah, I think what you're speaking to is the fact that, our immigration system is way not what it should be. It's jacked up. I mean, it
Yeah,
should. I'm for making it easier for people to come here legally, or what, like you said, whatever you want to call it. Uh, but I think that neither party really wants to fix it because they both benefit from the brokenness of the system. They can use it as a wedge issue. They can use it to get elected. They can use it to gin up votes. And it's really sad because you have good people who just want to live their lives. They just want to work, feed their families, get ahead. I mean, that's like the vast majority of the people that we're talking about here, and our system just makes it harder to do that. And so I'm actually glad that you brought that up because a lot of people really don't really dive into that. And but I was kind of thinking though, because when before I interviewed you, I was thinking about how there's this debate over whether corporations should speak out politically. Uh, on the right, we see it on the left where it's,
hmm
oh, that's a woke corporatism. That's a woke corporation. Tractor Supply recently said it's going to get rid of its
yeah,
DI stuff. It's going to stop being involved in those types of politics, but it is going to be involved in the type of politics that actually serves their customers, people who live in rural areas, which makes sense to me. But you're more on the right, and you spoke out in favor of Trump. What do you say to people who would make the argument that if you're a business, your job is just to make that money, make sure you're paying your employees, treating them well, contributing to the economy. You shouldn't be getting political. How would you respond to people who make that argument?
I think we have an unprecedented situation in the world today where tens of millions of people have been programmed to hate hundreds of millions of other people and think really horrible things about them. And a lot of times they think about them and refer to them in dehumanizing language, maggots, whatever the case may be, all sorts of horrible slurs. It's in and things don't go well when you got a large group of people that has dehumanized, hundreds of millions of other people. That's justification to do really horrible things for really horrible things to happen. So I think we have an unprecedented situation. I like solving big problems. I think this is one of the bigger problems in the world today. I also care a lot about happiness. I've always cared about happiness. I made it a point. I talked to my co-founder from the beginning. I had one, my brother and a friend were the only investors. They exited the company, so I'm the sole owner. But we jointly talked and said, we want Sticker Mule to be no investors, investors free. So we're not beholden to investors that care about getting a return on their money. From day one, I've never obviously listen, I look at the money as a point system, right? It's like I'm playing a video game in a way, real life video game, and I want to get a high score. But I don't operate on the basis I want to get money. I've wanted to create a great environment for our employees, and I think people that work here would tell you I've done that. We actually run independently third party happiness surveys at Sticker Mill. We get really high marks from our employees. We'll see if it shifted post me doing this or not. But we look at this data. Our customers think we treat people really well, and I people prior to this from all political backgrounds view this as a great company. So I like doing solving big problems. I like making the world happier, and I think us speaking up as a company with a great reputation, me as a person with a great reputation, helps shift the world in a more positive direction and solve a problem that's really big. And I really think that the viewpoint I'm taking, where it's completely absurd to hate hundreds of millions of people and throw the slurs that are being thrown at them, I think it's going to become a commonplace viewpoint in the coming months. If it wasn't going to be, like I said, the guy that took the biggest leap was Kanye West. Maybe people can say whatever they want about him, but he was one of the first people to tell everyone to stop it. Now you got Elon Musk, sorry, I mispronounced it. Elon Musk coming out and saying something similar. Mark Zuckerberg coming out and saying something similar. I saw Elon retweeted another tech CEO, not me, but another one. I don't know. But that came out a week after me and said something similar. So I think these people are all seeing each other speak up and seeing people like me speak up, and it's going to be commonplace because it's just nonsensical and it's really inappropriate for tens of millions of people to hate hundreds of millions of other people. That's not a world that I want to live in.
So let me ask you this, 'cause I did have another question, but something you said brought up another question, because I was asking about, how you would respond to people who say that corporations should just focus on their business. And you said that these are unprecedented times. If that assassination attempt hadn't have happened, would you have still spoken out? Would you have said anything?
Well, I moved quickly. That happened. I wrote what I wrote 5 minutes after the attempt. So would I had done something prior to the election? Hard to say.
Yeah.
It went the way it went, right?
Yeah.
Hard to say. Yeah, hard to say. But I'd like to see, I suspect probably, but I would have had to think of it. I believe it or not, I had written, believe it or not, I was gonna announce support for Trump and pre-COVID. I had written an op-ed.
Okay.
And it had a similar message that it's time for people to stop loving each other. If you read the op-ed at the time, like what I had written was I had written a long thing saying that, like, people, it used to, I started by saying, and I'm trying to remember, I started by saying, like, it used to, you could understand the justification for all these nasty slurs thrown at Trump supporters. It used to make sense to hate Trump supporters, I said, because it was, nobody knew what was going to happen. They said he was going to destroy the economy. He was going to create World War III. If you go back to, before he became president, right? He's going to destroy the economy. He's going to create World War III. All these horrible things. I was like, it used to make sense, but then pre-COVID, I had written an op-ed out, so I did want to get the word out pre-COVID and say, it used to make sense to hate Trump supporters, but because you could think in your mind, geez, if you're supporting Trump, you want World War III, you want the economy to be destroyed, you want, people from, minority groups to suffer economically. You want all, and it's like these things didn't happen, right? Prior to COVID, right? None of this happened. He created world peace. He lifted the economy for people from all cultural backgrounds. None of the things people thought were going to happen happened. And so, my argument was, it used to make sense, but like I said, facts have, reality has destroyed this, false narrative. And now it's time for us all to come together and remember that we can love each other again. We don't have to hate each other over politically. So I was going to publish that leading up to his, second term, or put that out there. And, unfortunately COVID happened and all hell broke loose.
Yeah.
And then my argument that the economy, he had fixed, the economy and all, it all took second place. So would I had said something, I had been wanting to say something since 2019. COVID threw things off a bit, and then we had to recover from COVID as a company, and a lot of things happened over the years, right? So I wanted to come out and shift the narrative and try to stop this hate dating back to pre-COVID. But then, once COVID happened, the anti-Trump hate, and even, it's kind of crazy that got memory hold, right?
Mm-hmm.
The absurdity of the absurdity of stuff with Trump pre-COVID got memory hold. With Trump said, inject bleach into yourself. I mean, these people that push these things, they have no shame, and unfortunately, a lot of, like I said, I think in general, most people have good hearts. I even think the people pushing these nasty ideas into the world, they probably think the ends justify the means or something, right? Like, if we get in power, we're gonna do right. So it's okay to lie and say he said inject bleach, right? Or he did this, But if you look at the data on COVID, no country really did better than another country, and there was the misinformation. I don't know. That was just a ridiculous situation with COVID. just
Yeah,
all around.
that's something that we'll all be talking about for ages, about how that was handled, the impact that it had, and the
Or
debate.
not, because it seems like it's been totally memory hold. I mean, it seems like nobody even wants. I mean, it's like nobody. I don't know who the hell knows. Somebody should write is there a book on it, right? On the history of like all the craziness that happened during COVID? But yeah, prior to COVID, I had already written a pretty nice piece on why it's crazy. Basically, the same argument. This hatred towards Trump supporters needs to come to an end. Like it used to make sense, but if you look at his actual track record, it doesn't make sense anymore. He didn't destroy the economy. He didn't go after certain groups like people thought he was going. Not all the things that they said that was going to happen didn't happen. And we should get back to loving each other again. So I think I'm still pushing that. Yeah. I mean, the assassination happened, and my creative energy was whatever. I
Yeah,
like to move quickly, and I was able to write what I wrote. I think it came out pretty good. And it was pretty well received by the people that read it. Obviously there was a backlash, but like I said before, the message on the internet was we got to let the whole world know that Sticker Mill supports Trump so that we can destroy their business. And now the message on the internet is, can Sticker Mill please stop telling people they support Trump because they're influencing people to stop hating Trump supporters, right? And so I think the message was effective. And I would have liked, I don't know, the world went the way it went. If it went differently, like could I have found an opportunity to sell what I wanted to sell? Like I would have had to look for it in a different way.
yeah, yeah, and I think that that assassination attempt really kind of did change things. I think that we're not really feeling it yet. I don't think that we're really seeing the full ramifications of that act of violence. Like he was shot. I mean, and I think that you see those iconic pictures that are iconic now of him bleeding from the ear,
Yeah.
the floor. I think there was something about that. It's not going to change the mind of the people who just hate Trump. But
Oh,
I think that, and I'm not even saying it's going to, make people who were going to vote for Democrats vote for him. But I think hopefully in the future, this could be the catalyst to something that of what you're talking about. Like it inspired you to, make America love again. So I think that
exactly. Right. We should new hats, make America love again.
make America
That's a
love
good one.
again. See, yeah, you can have that. That's for free. but
Wow.
that's what I liked about your post. Honestly, when I read it, I could see the heart behind it. I can see what you're trying to do, and I think that if this shooting motivates more people to do that at some point, not tomorrow, not next year, maybe this could be more of a domino effect where you got more people coming out on both sides saying, hey, we're not like the ugly people who you think represent us. This
Yeah.
is who we are. Yeah, we disagree on these policies. We disagree on yada yada yada. But there has to be a way for people to start, coming back together. And really, what I want to do is kind of reverse the trend of the. And this is where I'm going to put on my tinfoil hat. I think the elites want us at each other's throats. They want real life to look like Twitter. They want it to look like X. That's what they want to look like.
Mhm.
I think that's their goal because if we're at each other's throats, we don't see what they're doing. I mean, a lot of what Trump being on the scene, I think, has shown a lot of that. But I think that there's still more that's needed. So that's why I was kind of glad that you posted what you posted. My last question is, where do you see it going from here? Like, what do you think is the ultimate solution to really bridge this gap?
I think, people say, like I said, businesses shouldn't be involved in politics, but I think if you're a high IQ individual, successful individual, and you can express your thoughts, effectively, whether you're on either side and you view the world similar to me, I think you should, I think one, you're going to see more people like me speaking up. First of all, people came before me and already started doing it, right? So I'm not the first person to do this. Other people started well before me and are already started doing it. But I think it's going to become more, first of all, I think it's got to become more complex. I think it's going to become more complex. It'd be unrealistic to think that all of America or all the world is you're going to convince everyone not to hate the candidates, right?
Right.
Right? Like you're not going to convince, okay, some percentage of America is going to hate Joe Biden and some percentage of America is going to hate Donald Trump, right? But just because you hate Trump don't mean you got to hate his voters, and just because you hate Biden don't mean you got to hate his voters either, right? It's two different things, and it's absurd to think that any group that's a million or more people is all evil people. That's
Yeah.
it's not possible. right? We all go to work. We all go to bars. We all go to different, social events. And I've never met an evil. I mean, every now and then, maybe you meet somebody you might call evil. But in
Right.
general, like, you don't meet these people. You go to work. If you work in a large company, you got a mixture of pro and anti-Trump people, and you're friends with a lot of Trump people, whether you know it or not, right? And just because you find out they vote Trump, they don't suddenly become evil. So if that's the way you're viewing the world, you're wrong. I mean, it's not even a debatable thing. You need, like I said, an IQ above 80 to realize you're wrong and I'm right. I hate to say it that way, but just the way it is, and likewise on the converse, just because somebody's voting for Biden, I mean, it doesn't make them a bad person. You could dislike Biden all you want. I'm not going to convince the country if to not that the whole world not to not to dislike Trump, right? That's impossible.
Sure.
But if you're directing hate at your fellow citizens, and I've seen people that have separated from their families over this issue
Yeah.
or ended long-term friendships over this issue. And I've seen employers, particularly in tech, where I am, that have created very hostile work environments, right? There's a lot of Biden loving tech CEOs, and there's nothing wrong with that, but they create very hostile work environments for Trump supporters. I've heard it directly from people in tech that like Trump because, people that like him talk to me. And yeah, that's wrong. That should stop, right? You can dislike the candidates all you want, but to dislike the people you're hanging out with in bars, right? If you go to a bar, you don't know who's in that bar, what their political affiliation is. The thing, yeah. So to dislike people that are hanging out at bars or at social gatherings or whatever, or working in the same company as you, just because of their political beliefs, I mean that shouldn't be a thing anymore. And I think we can make that go away because I don't know. When I was a kid, I felt like the country didn't operate on that basis. I didn't feel like people hated each other based on their political beliefs. I think they didn't like the candidates, but they were able to like each other, and I think we can get back to that.
Yeah, I would like that too. I mean, I remember that from when I was a kid. I mean, there's always been division and vitriol. That's never going to go away. That's been around since politics was a thing. But it's just there's something different about now. So I'm glad that people are, like you're trying to bring back some sanity. But before we sign off, why don't you let everybody know where they can find you, all your pluggables.
Right. Well, I mean, the best place to go is stickermule.com. Actually, so, to go along with this, I say, we're a great company. If you don't know about us, but we got a strong reputation for being generous, very generous with our employees. We did bonuses during COVID, but the biggest thing we just did is, actually before all this happened, our big push was to be more generous with our customers. So go to stigma.com. We just launched, for the longest time, we've been the best place to buy custom stickers and t-shirts and all this other stuff, but we're now the best place to sell your stuff too. So you can both buy from us and sell through us. We just signed a number of big names to open stores. More big names are coming. So we got the official Mike Tyson store coming. I just signed a really cool influencer I love named Ricky Berwick. Another guy people might know just joined Sticker Mule, stickermule.com/Don Jr. The official Donald Trump Jr. store is now on Sticker Mule. I believe some other ones I probably shouldn't mention yet because they're not signed deals, but go to stickermule.com, check out all the stores we got, and open your own store. In fact, yeah, I'd love for you guys to get a store on Sticker Mule, and I'm the sole owner of the company. We're a great company, and I directed our team to be very generous with margins for our sellers. So we're trying to make, we're trying to help as many people as possible in any way possible. And for the longest time, we had a lot of fun selling products, but our big push right now is giving people yet another way to earn an income. I tend to think financial, like economic well-being is a fundamental human need. So we're trying to help people, help as many people as possible with our new stores platform where people can sell. Obviously, we're helping ourselves too, but we're being very generous, and we want people to both go enjoy the stores we got and open their own stores. So check us out at stickermill.com. And if you want to see our, wacky posts, and check us out on what's it now called x.com/stickermill.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining the show, and hopefully I can get you back on, and it'll be under better circumstances. But thanks for coming. I appreciate it.
Thanks. It was great.